The member for Braddon.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Home Affairs. Will the Minister update the House on how the Australian Border Force and Department of Home Affairs are providing logistical support in the delivery of COVID-19 vaccines?
The Minister for Home Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I thank the honourable member for his question, for his advocacy and his great work in his home state of Tasmania. Mr Speaker, the Morrison government obviously has taken many decisions over the course of the last 12 months or so dealing with COVID. Mr Speaker, the first decision, of course, that we took was to close the border initially with China and then with the rest of the world, and that has stood us in good stead, even in parts of Europe, the United Kingdom, for example, where people have been holidaying in Europe and then coming back to the United Kingdom. That makes it very difficult to contain the virus. And here we have worked day and night to keep Australians safe. Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister, the Treasurer and the government have provided significant support through a number of mechanisms to Australian families, to workers and to Australian small businesses as well. And the phase, of course, now that we move into is not just protecting Australians from the virus coming into our country from offshore, but also making sure that we can roll out the vaccine to protect, in particular, vulnerable Australians, older Australians, people in aged care, nursing homes, people in Indigenous communities, frontline health workers, police, Border Force staff, etc. And, Mr Speaker, the work of the Australian Border Force really deserves credit, and they deserve great recognition for the way in which they've been able to work with our airlines and in particular with our freight carriers. As we know, Mr Speaker, over the 12-month period up to the 1st of February this year, the total air arrivals into Australia has decreased by a staggering 97.4%. And the Department of Home Affairs has worked along with Border Force to make sure that the vaccine rollout can take place in our country. They've worked very closely with the Federal Department of Health and with their state counterparts. And I know that since November of last year, the ABF has used their working relationship with the supply chain partners to make sure that they can facilitate the clearance of 240 vaccine reagent samples in support of the TGA certification process. The TGA, Mr Speaker, is recognised around the world as being the most competent body to assess whether or not it is safe to have one of these vaccines. And the work that they've done is quite remarkable, and it should be relied upon by all Australians. Mr Speaker, yesterday the Australian Border Force worked very closely to pre-clear 23,790 vials of Pfizer-approved COVID-19 vaccines that will provide the dose to 142,000 individuals in our country. We should all be proud of the effort of our country. People have made sacrifices from one end of this country to the other, and we will continue to do everything we can to keep Australians safe during the course of the vaccine rollout and to make sure that we can recover in the best possible way.